Hello and welcome to Illuminations with Tiina and Fi, for you who desires a life of joy. I'm Tiina.
And I'm Fi.
So, new month, new theme. This time we are tackling attachment and attachment theory and everything that comes with that. So let's just get started. Fi, do you want to just tell us a little bit about the background of attachment theory?
Of course. So when I did my psychology degree back in, a zillion years ago, this was very much becoming alive at that point. So it was in the 80s. So a guy called Bowlby actually came up with this idea that it was around how babies responded to separation with a significant attachment figure. And he came up with what's called attachment behaviours, such as crying and clinging, etc. And started to just notice that some, young babies were different to others in how they were managing all this, but didn't systemize it. It just started to pull it all together and came up with this attachment system. And I must just use, because I won't remember this bit, but so for example, he says the attachment system essentially asks the fundamental question: is the attachment figure nearby, accessible and attentive? And if the child perceives the answer to be yes, then he or she feels loved, secure and confident. They're very three significant words, which I'm sure we'll probably explore later about adult. And behaviourally is likely to explore his or her environment, play with others and be very sociable. If, however, the child perceives the answer to be no, the child experiences anxiety and behaviourally is likely to exhibit attachment behaviours ranging from simple visual searching on the low extreme to active following and vocal signalling to the other. So, quite difference in behaviour. So it's really fascinating. And then what happened was Mary Ainsworth, later, when did she do her thing? She came about in so I think it was probably after that. So yeah, after he found the attachment system, she then started to get it more theorized and systemize it. And she noticed that children were generally falling into three areas. So one area is exactly as we said in the first situation with Barbie: the child feels secure, the parent, she did it by the parent leaving the room and coming back into the room, and or the significant attachment figure, as they like to call it in the old psycho babble. And she was observing what happened, and she noticed three distinct kind of camps. So they're the ones that were a bit sad, but when the parent came back, they went up and hung out with them and got a cuddle and then were fine. And then they're the ones that were crying and clinging, and when they went, they were bereft and not coping. And then when they came back, they were angry with the parent and crying and blah. And then there was this very interesting group that would kind of notice the parent going and say goodbye, but when the parent came back, would just ignore them and just get back on with the task. So the first group she called secure, so that makes sense. The second group she called, and there's a word for calling this properly, because we kind of shorten it down a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's called, anxious resistant. And then the third group is called anxious resistant. It's avoidant, isn't it? But it's called, what does she call it? Anxious resistant. Oh, I just called avoidant. So there you go. So anxious resistant and then avoidant. And then a guy called Fraley, he discovered a bit more around this and broke up the avoidant into two groups. And that's very interesting. He called them, there's the fear avoidant, and then there's the moving away avoidant. So we'll explore those a little bit more later. And so that's kind of the background to the child stuff. And then in 1987, which was just after I'd finished my degree, because Bowlby was quite a big thing, you know, if you did child development or anything. Two psychologists, Hazen and Shaver, they then started to go, let's explore this in adult relationships. And then they started to do a whole load of stuff in adult relationships. Yes. So why we thought we would talk about attachment is because you and I'll own it, I've been exploring quite a lot about my own personal relationships and, you know, looking at how to get out of habits and cycles of my behaviour. And yeah, there's been other stuff that we'll talk about that's helped, but there was definitely something about how I attach to people that started to have a pattern. I started to go, all right, what's going on here? And so I had to start standing back, and then I know you and I have started to look at this together quite a lot, and where we are, and in our relationship, how it works, and yeah, and then I'm handing back to you. I'll come back. I will.
Yeah, I think the big why as well is, you know, we've jointly explored some, we're individually exploring, you know, in our own relationships, but also for you who's watching, it's also because exploring adult attachment can help you understand why you behave and react in certain ways in your relationships. And the reason I'm saying that is because for myself personally, when I've started reading about adult attachment, it's been like the biggest light bulb ever in how I am in romantic relationships. Because when I was reading psychology and I was reading it from a child point of view, I was convinced that I'm securely attached. I'm like, well, my mama was there for me. You know, she cared for me, she was loving, and she showed that love. And, you know, so I was kind of quite happy as Larry going around thinking, well, I'm securely attached. You know, where's the problem? You know? And now, when to be totally honest, after the breakup of my last relationship, I've really kind of decided I just don't want to go through these patterns again and again. I'd love to have a long-term loving relationship where there's communication and understanding and you know, being together instead of separate. And I've realized that, well, actually, I'm anxiously attached. You know? And it really has, especially I've been reading a book called Attached by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller, and which is totally focusing in on adult attachment in romantic relationships. And literally reading it, I've been thinking, they have gone into my head and got the information out of my head, because it's just such a big light bulb for me. And what they're doing is that they have secure attachment. They kind of, through research, know about 50% of people are securely attached. And they're comfortable with intimacy, and they're warm and caring in their relationships. And they're trusting, and, you know, it's like, it sounds, when I read about securely attached people, it's this calmness. It's like, hey, you know, it's like good. And then you've got anxiously attached people, and about 20% of the population are anxiously attached. And they crave intimacy, but they're very preoccupied with the relationship. And they're very fearful around, does my partner actually love me or not? And need reassurance very, very often to kind of know, okay, we're okay. He's not going to leave me, or he or she won't leave me, you know. And then we got the avoidance, about 25% of the population, who crave independence. But very often they're unable to express that in a relationship and say, hey, I love you, but I need, in every relationship I'm in, I need a sense of independence. I need to do stuff on my own. That doesn't mean that I don't love you, but I just need that independence. And because they're not able to communicate that very often, it then becomes a problem, because then it's not clear on why, and they don't always know why themselves either, unless they start exploring it. And the remaining 3 to 5% of people, they're avoidant and anxious going on, you know. So it's very interesting when I have started reading about this, and it clarifies the behavior patterns, you know, and interestingly enough, avoidant and anxious people are quite drawn to one another, which then of course creates a challenge, because the anxiously attached person wants that reassurance and is seen by the avoidant as very needy, and the avoidant wants the independence, and the anxious one doesn't understand the independence because it's not communicated by the avoidant one of why. So the anxious one takes it personally, and it's about me. And actually the avoidant one very often thinks that it is about this person, because they don't understand that that's a need that they have themselves. So consequently, that is challenging in those relationships when both parties don't understand it. Research shows that avoidant and avoidant very rarely date, because they're both so, well, I'm going to be independent, I'm going to be independent, so they never meet, you know. But ideally, you know, the securely attached person can handle both the avoidant and the anxiously attached people. But yeah, so it's been very fascinating to read that. And of course, me as anxious attachment style, I now understand that I'm very often drawn to the avoidant, and I can see how those patterns have, not in all my romantic relationships, but in many of them, of how those patterns have played out from both sides. And that because there hasn't been that understanding, there hasn't been that communication about it. You see, anxiously attached, like a person like me, very difficult to express wants and needs, because I'm just referring to this book, how they've researched it. In society, we celebrate independence. We're supposed to be independent, and being needy and clingy, that's bad, you know. So therefore, there is this whole thing of, oh, I shouldn't say, please, can you reply to my text or WhatsApp, whatever, quickly, because once you do, I'm calm, and then I don't have to worry about it. But when I don't hear from you, that's when I kind of go into this whirlwind of, you know, what's happening? Does he love me? Doesn't he love me? Da 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 da. It's something. Did I do something wrong? You know. So it's just do you have any questions? Because I'm just going on.
Well, I've actually found, I'm going to read these because these are really brilliant. So Hazen and Schaefer came up with 3 paragraphs. So if you as the listener can hear this, okay. So so I am somewhat uncomfortable being close to others. I find it difficult to trust them completely and difficult to allow myself to depend upon them. I am nervous when anyone gets too close, and often others want me to be more intimate than I feel comfortable being. So that's pretty obvious, that's the avoidant. Then B, I find it relatively easy to get close to others, and I'm comfortable depending on them and having them depend on me. I don't worry about being abandoned or about someone getting too close to me. Secure. And then the last one might resonate. I find that others are reluctant to get as close as I would like. I often worry that my partner, exactly as you said, doesn't really love me or won't want to stay with me. And I want to get very close to my partner, and this sometimes scares people away. And so I think that they were really beautiful in, you know, it's exactly as you said, in just how that's how they get people to get a quick kind of sense of it. Well, it's interesting because, do you know what? I think, and this is the question, is whether you can move out of that attached state, and there's still a question around that, you know, in some of the research at this moment. I kept reading and reading and reading. I think I might be that 3%. I really do, because it makes sense to me. And you know me, I actually do display anxious, but I also display avoidant. That then starts to make sense to me, because I'm thinking, as I was reading it all and looking at myself, because I am so avoidant, but I am also so anxious. Then things kick off. If I don't hear from you for 5 days, a whole load of stuff goes on in my head. That makes sense. Now, I think what is interesting is that I was thinking more recently that I think I'm getting more calm. I'm learning to be more calm. So I'm definitely learning to have more secure attachments. So I think that's quite an interesting question. Is that we might maybe explore that more next time. I don't know on time we've got, but and is I wonder whether certain you've got me thinking now, elements help, like being able to express needs and wants. Biggie, changed my world.
Mm.
Still not getting it right and wrong. Boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there are key behaviors that if you just learn them, they
Mm.
actually move the relationship, or maybe move you maybe into being able to have more security in relationships. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I mean, both in this book that I've read quite a lot, and also Insecure in Love, which is for anxious. There's Leslie Becker Phelps talks about there's research around earned security, so you can move into more secure relationship, more secure attachments. One is by actually being with somebody who is securely attached, either in a romantic relationship or finding a friend, or some kind of relationship with somebody who's secure, who can teach you, who you can see behaviors and thought patterns.
I'm not sure I know anybody in my friendship group who's securely attached. I mean, my friends watching this are probably going to be horrified, but I'm not sure. I mean, when they say that there's 50-60%, I'm like, where are they? Seriously, where are you?
Yeah.
Because I've not met you.
Well, that's interesting though, because are we then drawn to people?
Yeah.
What often happens, oh, hold on, I'm just going to finish. There are other ways as well to get to secure. And that's, expressing wants and needs, starting to change thought patterns. And what Leslie talks about is that, her words, it's not easy, but it can be done.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then what was I going to say? Often from an anxious attachment point of view, is that I say you for us anxiously attached people, what you start to believe is love is the drama. You associate the drama with, this is how love's supposed to be. So, the avoidant goes away, you crave it more, there comes a conflict, and there's like, whoa, that. And that's love. But when you meet a securely attached person who doesn't display the drama, who's there for you, who doesn't kind of, as soon as you become too close, they don't run away, they're kind of there. It becomes a little bit boring. So you're not that interested in those securely attached people. And again, it's learning about those attachment styles and kind of going, what am I actually attracted to? Am I attracted to the drama? Am I attracted to somebody who will reject me on a weekly basis because that heightens my feeling, that heightens my need to get even closer. So.
And next time when we talk, I'll bring in the transaction analysis, because they have a whole attachment stuff going on in there that is all about the drama triangle as well. So it's so aligned, absolutely. Okay.
Brilliant. Good stuff. We're done for this time.
I do have a friend who actually I just remembered, she had a questionnaire that was you had to fill it in as a friend or a partner to test out whether you were secure attached.
Get me that form. I want that.
I just remembered. I mean, it was really cool. She was a psychologist, and she helped me. She really helped me to start understand how it was playing out in my own relationship. But maybe I'll talk about it next time, not because I'm avoiding it, I'm aware of time, but I do believe that we have actually learning to bring our relationship into a secure relationship, but it is taking quite a lot of work. But my trainers have been put away. The avoidant is not there. I'm staying, and I'm like, right, let's learn within this. So
brilliant. I think maybe could we put the question out as, now that you've heard us give examples of mostly anxiously because I've taken the scene with my own. I didn't want to illustrate it, but
I'll emphasize my avoidant next time. That'll be
okay, good. So there will be a balance. So what attachment style do you think that you are? Just simple one. Now that you've heard all these things, and what then you can start exploring of how does that play out in your relationships. Fantastic. good stuff. Good to have a laugh with you, Fi.
Yeah, you too, Tina. Attachment is something to laugh about.
Oh, well, really, really.
Otherwise, you cry.
Otherwise you cry. If
You
you
go into anxious.
oh yeah.
All right then.
If you've enjoyed this episode, spread it to others, share it, leave us comments about what you've discovered about yourself or about the world around you, and yeah, click the like button if you liked it. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you. Bye.
Bye.